And well, Bilderberg not the only meeting taking place at the moment. Ditchley Foundation also holding a meeting. What's going on with them?
Sense that some of us may have heard vaguely of the Ditchley Foundation, but it turns out they're quite busy along the same ideological lines as Bilderberg and the Trilateral Commission. They're the most open of the three, Ditchley being the most open, Trilateral in between, Bilderberg the most secretive. And a quick other footnote, Ditchley, which is meeting right now as we speak, even while Bilderberg is meeting in Sweden, and Ditchley is meeting, as this slide shows, the 12th through the 14th of June, so they actually started yesterday. And their topic is renewing democracy, how to strengthen democratic resilience, and outcompete authoritarianism in Europe. So another noted aspect of Ditchley is they're a one-topic shop. Every time they meet, it's just one topic as opposed to the multiple topics of those other two groups. And another quick footnote is there's an American Ditchley Foundation founded in 1964. The original in the UK founded 1958, only 4 years after Bilderberg, and the Canadian Ditchley Foundation 1981. Now there's a couple slides here that show their upcoming topics because Ditchley, it turns out, meets 6, maybe 7 times a year. In September, the next topic is Indo-Pacific strategy, deterrence in its diplomatic and economic context. In October, energy security and climate action. Get this, making climate action politically deliverable. So they are absolute religious believers in the common climate change narrative. They've got to make it fit. They've got to force fit this thing. A couple other programs this coming November. How can Europe pay for and organize the defense it needs? A lot can be drawn from that. And this coming December, just like they did a year ago, the role of the new fourth estate in renewing democracy. And what's interesting there, and this is one of the highlights, is besides trying to make the climate change thing work no matter what, these guys at Ditchley, many familiar faces, some not so familiar, they believe that the legacy media must be salvaged. It must be revived, resuscitated, whatever they can do, restored. There's no room for actual real free press, real news alternatives. They're going to move heaven and earth. Maybe it's philanthropic funding, maybe it's not. They're looking at all the different models to try and salvage and resuscitate the slowly dying legacy media. So that's high in their agenda. In fact, and we can show the next slide, another thing different about Ditchley is they pretty much, unless otherwise announced, they meet at the same place, and that's the Ditchley Park Estate in Oxfordshire. Not exactly a falling down shanty there that they meet in. Some very, very amazing grounds are around that home. Anyway, looking ahead on that media note, and they put a lot of emphasis on media. This next slide, in fact, fits into that narrative. As I mentioned, this coming December is just like last December, and here's what they did last December: the role of the fourth estate in democracies. How should the news and information ecosystem evolve to develop resilience and meet audience needs in a turbulent political, technological, and commercial landscape? And that was last December. And then this past February was Great British Growth. How do we take the UK's economy forward in a period of geopolitical competition? And I'll have some links in the show notes where people can read more in depth. Because one thing about Ditchley is that they report much more after the fact in detail than Bilderberg would ever think about, and a little bit more than Trilateral. But one major announcement before we finish up, just some very brief miscellaneous things, is Ditchley is planning to run an expanded media program in the near future with generous support from the MacArthur Foundation, a very noted supporter of public television in the U.S. This will be framed around 4 anchor events planned to take place at Ditchley, London, also in New York, and at Ditchley Park, and in Germany. And so they're really expanding on solidifying and expanding their support for the dominant media to keep their interests and their profits and their plans into place. They don't want any actual independent voices out there. And just to wind this up, the director who shows up in pretty much all the listings. The overall director of the Ditchley Foundation is a rather familiar face, James Arroyo, previous director for data at the British Foreign and Commonwealth Office. And we'll move on from there and just go through some miscellaneous things. Casimir Yost was one Bilderberg connection from Bilderberg to Ditchley. He's one of 32 of Ditchley's American branch members. He was one of the 6 ever honorary American Secretary Generals at Bilderberg. And he's also, of course, very active at Ditchley. But Bilderberg abandoned that position. There are no more honorary American Secretary Generals there. Then we also have within Ditchley's organization, we have the Council of Management. Members include BBC reporter James Landale in the Council of Management, Robert Wills, an apparent descendant of the founders of Ditchley, Glasgow Foundation President Marjorie N. Glasgow. So they have 11 members, and that group, the Council of Management, is going to meet in July, I believe July 16th. Some other conflicts of interest and curiosities. This is Stephen Erlinger, the chief diplomatic correspondent in Europe for the New York Times. He's actually a member of the Ditchley Foundation Governors. Talk about a conflict of interest for reporters, and they're having an annual meeting coming up the 24th of September. Some others on that list include John Sowers, who's also at Bilderberg. So that's another Ditchley-Bilderberg connection. And lastly, Ditchley just opened up a new London pad, another London outlet, and it is at 1 St. James Square, and 1/10 of a mile away at 10 St. James Square is Chatham House itself. So birds of a feather flock together. But this is another group to keep on our radar from here on out, guys. So very interesting stuff.
I've been to 1 St. James Square. I know exactly where that is. Very posh address.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for that. We will be reporting much more on that, I'm quite sure, in the future. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Patrick. Things kicking off again between Israel and Iran as we're on the program. Undoubtedly, we'll be talking about that in extra in a couple of minutes' time. So do join us if you're a UK Column member. If you're not, please consider joining because you're missing a lot. But otherwise, have a great weekend, and we'll be back at 1 p.m. on Monday as usual. But if you're a member, see you in a couple of minutes for extra. See you then. Bye-bye.